Mae ail ddewis yn harbenigwr cŵn Dylan falle bach yn fwy tebyg I beth mae'r Midgleys yn ei ddisgwyl. Mae'n amser iddyn nhw gwrdd ar Cockapoo.
O, plesioedd.
Right. Da chi'n barod? Nino! Oh my gosh!
Mae hon bach mwy bywiog na'r un cynta, oce?
Okay. Pob lwc. Dyma ni. Ar gorllygad.
Mam, is it boy?
Geneth eto. Mae'n crynu, okay? Cos mae hi'n excited. Ond mae Dylan yn dweud bod hi'n mynd bach mwy lively. Cockapoo, 8 wythnos oed.
Oh, Bobby, lovely.
Look,
she lives. Look how busy her tail is. Yeah, hello.
It's crazy.
Mae'n mynd rownd a rownd a rownd nawr. Mae'n edrych fel bod ni'n chwilio am rhywbeth.
Ti bach?
Don't you have a poo? Uh-oh.
O, mae wedi!
Wedi.
O, mae wedi cerdd y tri.
Oh no! He's a poo.
Stood on your poo.
Os ma'n ymwain ci bach, hwn yw'r reality, ti'n iawn.
Shall we take her outside to see if she wants to have another poo and have a play? Come on then, let's get your trainers on. Go on, Bobby girl. Yes! She went straight through the hoop. Oh, yeah, Bobby. Yay! Yay!
Mae'r boes wrth I bodd unwaith to, ond mae'r Cockapoo tyme bach mwy bywiog na'r edil. Peth da neu drwg wedwch?
Oh, Bobby, she loves you. Yay!
A mae nai nôl gyda'r rhai o'r cefndryd.
Haia!
Hiya!
Lle mae'r ci ma?
Hello. Hello.
Hey, Alice.
Ti'n licio Alice?
She's gorgeous, isn't she?
Excuse me, dwi'n cael gafel yna. Oh,
I'm
sit
voting.
yma.
I'm voting.
Oh, this is good.
Mae off to.
I go already.
Ond mae gennym ni benderfyniad anodd yn drwy'n does?
Ydy'r ci weithiau yn dewis y perchennog?
Wel, yn bersonol, fi'n meddwl bod e'n bwysig bod y ci'n dewis y perchennog. Mae fe'n sefyllfa hollol newydd i'r ci bach a hollol newydd i'r teulu. Mae'n mynd I fod yn benderfyniad galed iawn. Beth ni di wneud, Helen? Beth ni di wneud?
Hey, gorgeous girl. Oh, you're a daddy's girl already. You're daddy's girl.
Ti ddim, na gwy. Ti ddim. Ti ddim.
Oh, dear me. Decisions, decisions, decisions. You gonna chill now?
Yeah, that's the thing. We're not going to get that, though, are we?
Ow! What with
The
this one?
first one was, like, calm.
Mae Ceri'n meddwl am yr pictiwr llawn, pob criteria, ynddo fe? Dim dim ond yr teulu.
So dog number 1 was a lot calmer, but it'll grow to be a bit bigger. But then this dog, dog number 2, is a bit more hypo, but won't grow as big as dog number 1.
I don't want it as big.
But you love dog number 1, though.
No, I like number 2 the most now.
Mae yna dipyn o waith pendroni o flaen y teulu bach, ac yn anffodus I fi, mae'n amser casglu'r Cockapoo, a wi ddim yn edrych mlaen at hwn. O, na. O, cai bach. O, cariad.
Don't eisiau hi fynd.
Na.
Do. Ti di mwynhau cael y ci, ddo'n do?
Sus, say see you soon. There you go. That's
Okay.
time. Thank you
Diolch
very
yn
much.
fawr iawn. Thank you. Diolch.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tra, mami!
Tra, boys.
Tra!
Tra.